here we go again, ladies and gentlemen. How are you? Welcome on in. It is Wednesday, November 13th. And oh boy, do we have some news for yous todays. How is it possible? How can it be that we have more updates about the future of Star Wars and it's all about Rey Skywalker? It can't be. It can't be. And yet it is. It is. It is B. It is B, and it's true, real stuff. So we got to talk about it. We also have to talk about Denzel Washington being confirmed to be joining the Marvel Cinematic Universe in Black Panther 3. That's pretty sure. So we're going to talk about that. We also must talk about Captain America reshoots. My God. So we got a full batch of nerdy news. We got a full batch. Not a bad batch, a full batch, but also maybe also a bad batch as well. So I'm pretty excited to get into that with you all today. Holy crap, generosity pouring into the stream right away. Rossi, thank you for gifting a member. Zach, thank you for gifting a member. And Bianca, thank you for gifting 5 memberships to the community. Really appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much. So I guess we should get into it. We should probably discuss what happened yesterday. So if you didn't see it yesterday, we tried something, and you know, sometimes we're out here and we're trying stuff, you know. And yesterday we tried something that I thought would be really wild and crazy. I thought, oh man, wouldn't it be cool if we read like 100 comic books on stream? And yeah, that didn't work out so good. I underestimated what that would take, what that would look like. So yeah, my bad on that one. But what we're gonna do, we will continue that into a part 2, and we'll keep at it, because I did think it was fun. Like, it was a fun stream, it was a cool idea, but holy shit, I completely underestimated what that would be like and how many words Jonathan Hickman puts onto his comic books. Holy shit, dude. There were a lot of words. There were a lot of words, and it was difficult to read them all. John Cross says we got 99 comics and Josh ain't reading one. So at the end of a 5-hour stream, we had read, I think, 12 or 13 of those comics. Or 13 in 5 hours. Can you believe it? I kind of can't believe it. That's nuts. That's like, that was, I don't know what I anticipated exactly. I thought the whole stream would take like around 10 hours. So I thought we'd be reading these things and we'd be flowing through them. We'd be like breaking them down, talking about it, looking at the different panels. And I thought all 100 of them would take around that time. You know what I mean? I was way off. Yeah. So we're going to continue that. I don't know when we'll continue that. Maybe we'll do that over the weekend. We'll probably have to find spots to do that as like almost like extra streams and whatnot. Because they take, I mean, look, I'm going to have to mentally prepare. I'm going to have a whole bunch of tea so that my throat doesn't get sore. I'm going to have a lot of time allocated. It's going to be a whole thing. So that is going to be tough, but we'll continue doing it. how many pages are in one. I think there were regular counts, so they were like 20, 22, 24 pages. But the thing is, Hickman there's just so much on each and every one of those issues. Like, he really likes to write little words into the bubbles and shit like that. So, damn, that was pretty crazy. But we'll continue it. And I did actually find a lot of cool stuff in there right away. So, like, one of the things that was in there that was pretty interesting was the whole concept of Captain Universe and the universe itself being sentient and the universe breaking down, the slip space, the Star Brand, Nightshade, all that kind of stuff was really cool. I also didn't realize that the Black Swan, the bomb that she has to destroy the universes or the worlds, they're antimatter bombs. So she has antimatter bombs. That's like what they're using to blow up planets to stop the incursions. I thought that was really interesting because, of course, we have the antimatter that's then in Deadpool and Wolverine. There was the Blood Bible, which is like a forbidden book, even worse than the Darkhold that Doctor Strange uses. So there were a lot of cool things that I could kind of see Marvel Studios kind of pulling from in order to adapt some of the stuff for the MCU. And as I continue to say, I think Jonathan Hickman's run was something that Kevin probably pulled a lot from. And it makes sense. It's literally the best 3 years of Marvel Comics ever. Incredible stories, incredible characters, super deep, a lot of seeds that he's planting throughout. Fascinating stuff. So we will continue that, but we're not going to be able to do it at like regular stream time. Holy shit, that was crazy. So appreciate you all for showing up for that, though. Showroom Sabers, member for 22 months, says, hope life is going well. Hope Elisa and the little guy are doing great. Haven't been here in a while, but winter is coming. So back on streams. Ray Wan, oh yes, we will. First of all, thank you, brother. I appreciate the support. 22 months, big deal. We're all doing good, but we're also preparing for baby number 2. So I don't know if you've been here. You said you haven't been here in a while, so maybe you didn't even know this, but we got baby number 2 on the way. Little Athena, she's already a pistol. So she'll be here in about a month's time, give or take. So we're preparing for that. But yeah, thank you, brother. Chris Kelly says Denzel is playing as Blue Marvel. Nerdvengers assemble. I actually think that's probably true, but we'll have a discussion about that because a lot of people in our community don't think that's the way to go. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think if you think about what Coogler has been doing, I think that makes a lot of sense. So I think Blue Marvel would be sweet. I know Rob's excited for Blue Marvel, so that's cool. Showroom Saber says, with a 5, appreciate you, brother, says Rey being Obi-Wan role to Luke's secret kid with Mara Jade would be great place to jump off for episode 11 and 12 if they are really going to do that. Thoughts? Yeah, that would be sick, dude. I would love that. I think that would be the way to go as far as introducing secret Skywalkers. But we're going to get into that because that's like the least of our problems. I mean, look, I'm going to do the best that I can today in talking about the reports that came out yesterday, framing what has actually been happening over the past couple of weeks. Because, ladies and gentlemen, in some ways, we are living through history. And I'm not talking about anything political. I'm talking about this franchise, Star Wars. We are actually viscerally living through and going through a public fight in the press about the future of the Star Wars franchise from a studio that is divided. And so I want to kind of like bring that in. Of course, I have my own thoughts and opinions, and I'm going to get a little toxic about it because I cannot believe this shit, right? But at the same time, I think that just as objectively as I can put it, what we are seeing right now is a battle for the soul of Star Wars playing out in the press, which is actually kind of similar to what happened when they were trying to get the Snyder Cut going on. And so I want to get into talking about the most pressure that I ever felt from Hollywood And this was at a time when I was reporting stuff about Ben Affleck's Batman. And I want to bring a parallel to Jeff Johns' camp in Warner Brothers putting out certain pieces like, do you guys remember the Jason Momoa Frosty the Snowman story? I'm sure a lot of you don't. Lucky for you, I remember everything. Except like important shit. So I will bring this up to you. I want to explain why this is studio trickery. And we'll have a big discussion about it. So it's going to be cool. Griff, thank you, brother. 36 months says shiny new badge with 3 years in the books. Holy cow, 3 years, man. I appreciate that's older than Liam. You've been a Nerd Venture longer than Liam's been alive. That's wild. I appreciate the love that's shared in this community. Nerd Ventures for life. Reed Stash is canon. No! You had me in the first half, brother. No, I'm just playing, of course. I appreciate you, man. We do have a great community. You know, community greater than audience. I've always felt that way. I feel that way now. And I feel like that's actually going to be even more important in the future. I think content's changing. I think the whole world is changing. I think community is something you want over audience. I will take both. But if I have to pick one, it's community over audience all day. Rossi says with a 5 spot, I have a leak for the plot of Rogue Squadron. Rey will train a new team of X-Wing pilots in the New Republic. She will rename herself Rey Antilles. Well, she'd probably name herself like Rey Antilles Skywalker. Kenobi. You know what I mean? She'd probably just take all the names. You know, like doesn't that seems like Rey to me. I'll take all the names, all the accolades, if I can. Okay. Middleton Strong says, Josh, genuinely, why do you want Venom 3 to do well? At this point, the Sonyverse is doing more damage than good to the Marvel brand. It needs to end. Well, I would answer that question in 2 ways. I would say, first of all, part of it just has to do with I like the movie. And my wife really didn't like the movie. You'll learn. If you get married, maybe you're married and you already understand this. Maybe you're not married and you don't understand this. So let me explain. A marriage is a unity and a bond and a lifelong commitment to your greatest partner and collaborator in life. And yet it is also a lifelong battle. Who was right about this thing? Who was right about that thing? Etc., etc. So when you go see a movie and your wife really doesn't like it, but you do, you're rooting for that shit for life. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, multiple things can be true at once. I mean, Venom 3 doing well, and really, let's put an asterisk next to that, right? Because it might barely get to where the second movie was, and that's not great, but that would still be wildly more successful than The Marvels, Madam Web, Joker 2, movies that audiences have completely rejected. So it can be the case that I want the movie to not be rejected, because that's bad for the genre, and also believe that they can do better. Right? So there's a little answer for you there. There you go. There you go on that one. All right, guys, let's get into it. Let's get into the news, ladies and gentle beings. And let's begin with Rey Skywalkers. Okay, and there's 2 articles that we want to look at today. One of them almost ruined my stream yesterday. Let me see if I can find that, actually. Okay, one of them almost ruined the stream yesterday, and one of them is a new Forbes article by Paul Tassi. Now, I know Paul Tassi, people have mixed feelings about Paul, but he's a good reporter, and I think he has some good deets. So let's first look at the article that was dropped yesterday. Okay, and I also, hang on just a second here, chat. because I also want to show. This guy here on Twitter. If you didn't know, I'm back on Twitter. Okay, I'm trying to rebuild my Twitter clout. So this is my account, Josh Den of Nerds, at Josh Den of Nerds. And I said, Rey shouldn't be the future of shit. She represents an era of Star Wars content that was completely out of step with what George Lucas created Star Wars to be and what fans desire from the franchise. This is beyond stupid. Okay, so what are we talking about? What am I saying is beyond stupid? Let's go through this article here. Let's talk about the news. I want to go over the Forbes article. Then I want to wrap it all up in a nice bow and explain to you what's really happening, okay? Star Wars movies race for Rey and the future of the franchise on the big screen. The scavenger turned Jedi, played by Daisy Ridley in the last 3 episode movies, is key to the space opera's next turn. This is by Boris Kitt. He released this yesterday. This first line is a doozy, ladies and gentlemen. It is a doozy. All right, let me get this over here, okay? Forget the Death Star. The most coveted weapon in the Star Wars movie arsenal is the character of Rey Skywalker. Man, oh man, that is a statement. Also, Sire1, thank you for gifting a member over on Twitch, okay? Since the November 7th reveal that Simon Kinberg had signed on to develop and write and produce a new Star Wars trilogy for Lucasfilm and Disney, debate had focused on whether or not it would be a continuation of the so-called 9-film Skywalker saga, tying it to the legacy of Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, and storylines first laid out by George Lucas in 1977. The reason for the debate is that the new hoped-for trilogy would feature Rey in some form of fashion. Okay, so let me try to translate that into normal person speak for you, okay? On November 7th, some shit came out about Simon Kinberg developing a Star Wars trilogy. There's debate about whether or not it's connected to the Skywalker saga, and the reason for the debate is because it's definitely going to focus on Rey or feature Rey in some way, shape, or form. That's like the normal spec, okay? Some fans have expressed criticism that Lucasfilm will return to the well to make episodes, as they are called. I really don't see that happening. Do you see that happening? Do you think that there's a fan discussion where they're being critical of Lucasfilm for making episodes again? I didn't see any of that. Beyond the 9 movies that comprise the Skywalker story, which has been billed as concluded with 2019's Rise of Skywalker, blah, blah, blah. But Rey, the scavenger turned Jedi, played by Daisy Ridley in the last 3 episode movies, is key to the franchise's next turn. That potentially puts Kinberg's trilogy story development, as early in its conceptual stages as it may be, on a collision course with the Rey standalone movie that is actively in the works with director Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy. So let me try to put this into normal person speak. Rey is the future of the franchise, according to Lucasfilm. The fact that this trilogy is going to focus on Rey puts it in potential conflict with the other Rey movies that are currently being developed. That feature, revealed with fanfare in April 2023 at Star Wars Celebration in London, is to star Ridley and could have already been in production if it were not for them fucking it all up. Perhaps that is why Lucasfilm was receptive to Kinberg's multi-story pitch. Anything to move Rey forward. But it does engender rumors in Star Wars Underground of filmmakers jostling for characters. Ridley, for her part, recently told The Hollywood Reporter, "I feel like the new one/new ones will be so interesting. Time has passed and a lot has changed for me personally, so it'll be interesting to come back to someone I know well, but at a different moment." While insiders dispute the notion that there is a battle for Rey, there definitely is internal deliberation within Lucasfilm as to what to do with the heir to the Skywalker next. She is the most valuable cinematic asset, in some ways, maybe the only one Star Wars has right now. This is unfucking believable. I'm trying. I'm really trying here. I'm trying to be professional about this. I'm trying to be objective about this. I'm trying to give you the news as straight as I possibly can. But this sentence is hilarious. She is the most valuable cinematic asset in some ways, maybe the only one Star Wars has right now. One source close to the franchise tells THR. Who's the source? Kathleen Kennedy? Like, who there is so brain dead that they're going to say some shit like that? This is unfucking believable. Unfucking believable. This is me doing the best that I can. The best that I can. Okay, let's keep going. Wow. According to sources, Rey is set to play a role in several movies that are being developed, although which ones remain unclear. Star Wars movie development has been under scrutiny for several years at Lucasfilm head Kathleen Kennedy, taking fire for not developing meaningful characters beyond the first ones created by Lucas prior to... No, that's not what they're under fire for. And if the franchise looks forward in its canon timeline, all those beloved characters are dead. Yeah, because you killed them. So Luke's dead, Leia's dead, Vader's dead, Obi-Wan's dead, Yoda's dead, Han's dead. Wow. This is going to be kind of similar to something we're going to speak about with T'Challa in a little bit here, right? Rey, created in the post-Lucas era, is arguably the only entity with currency on the big screen now. The closet is a little bare, says another source. What? What Kinberg hiring lays bare is that development of the movies, the company remains its own unique ecosystem in Hollywood. This is the most puffy puff piece I've ever heard in my life. This guy is couching so positively for Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm. He deserves a medal or a pat on the back or like a cookie or something. There are numerous Star Wars movies being developed that overlap characters or timelines. They are not related, but whatever one were to come out first could, in domino effect, impact the rest. Yeah. Okay. Some Lucasfilm directors are aware of what others are working on, while others are not. For instance, Taika Waititi is working on a Star Wars movie. Sean Levy has a feature project in the works, and Donald Glover's Lando idea has moved over from development to the TV side to Lucasfilm. And now it's a TV thing? Okay. A Rogue Squadron project is still in development as a feature. It's a different way of developing, says another one. That's a different way of developing. My God, bro. My God. I had a conversation with myself in the mirror right before this stream. I said, Josh, you need to do better, Senator. You need to not treat this all as some big shit-piling parody joke. You need to try to be serious. This is serious stuff. This is actual news. The people rely on you to cut through the bullcrap and tell it like it is. You cannot take your own personal bias. You cannot take your own frustration with the brand and allow it to taint the taint of what you're trying to get going on. And I swear to God, I just can't read this shit without laughing. Oh my God. It's a different way of development, says another insider familiar with the company's way of working. There's so much parallel work going on. Oh my God, bro. That's like an amazing way to say it. Hey, the next time I fuck up a stream or I fuck something up in a video or whatever, I'm going to be like, you know what? We've got a different way of development over here. There's so much parallel work going on. It also points to the unique nature of Star Wars. To fans, and in this case, filmmakers and producers, is it not a brand or a franchise, but something akin to a religion? Yeah, it used to be. Unlike Marvel or DC with decades of stories propelling them forward, or even Harry Potter with 7 fleshed out books, Star Wars, at its core, has been the original George Lucas movies, and nothing has been codified or been made more canonical in modern times than those 3 movies. To filmmakers and executives, the first trilogy is the Old Testament. You're being asked to create the New Testament, adds one source who's worked on previous movies, and no one can agree on anything, and there's a lot of second guessing about meanings. Wow. I mean, listen to that, huh? You're being asked to create the New Testament, adds one source who's worked on previous movies, and no one can agree on anything. And there's a lot of second guesses or guessing about meanings. I mean, they are literally saying that they treat the old trilogy as the Old Testament. They think they're tasked with creating the New Testament, and no one can agree on anything. And there's a lot of second guessing about meaning. Well, if you're guessing about meaning and you can't agree on anything, I would put forth that you might not understand Star Wars. I mean, is that not a fair statement? Is that not a fair thing to say? Another source familiar with the process is more business-minded, noting Star Wars is a nostalgia-based enterprise, and they are running out of ways to create nostalgia. Wow. So from the business perspective, somebody is saying it's a nostalgia-based enterprise, and they are running out of ways to create nostalgia. Wow. Does this not sound familiar to the whiteboard stream we did about a month ago where I talked about the problem with Star Wars? Do you remember when I described the death spiral? I believe the death spiral that I was talking about was the fact that they actually can't keep going back to the well of nostalgia, and they don't understand it enough to push anything truly forward into the new. So therefore, they have no way, they have no direction. They can't go new. They can't go back. It's a death spiral. The television side doesn't appear to have these problems. Oh, yes, it does. In fact, I would argue that the television side has done more damage to the brand than even the sequel trilogy. As several insiders note, that arm has a lot more freedom to expand Lucas's universe, which is why there's been a varied slate that runs, for better or worse, in the eyes of fans, the gamut from Andor, The Acolyte, and Ahsoka. Yeah, it's all over the place, I think is one way to say it. But again, I don't think that's a good thing. And like, what is this logic that that's not connected to how people feel about the actual movies? Here's what an insider said at the very end. To make standalone movies or continuing the Skywalker saga in any form is a fundamental question the company faces as it tries to move forward. Wow, that is ridiculous. Could you not make a trilogy that pushes things forward and also has nostalgia? Before we get into the Forbes article here, I was thinking about Jurassic World. I believe that's the one. The first one they made with Bryce Dallas Howard and Chris Pine. Or no, sorry, Chris Pratt. Y'all seen that movie? I thought that movie was the perfect example of how to push something forward and yet still have a lot of incredible callbacks and nostalgia. And I can't believe that they are so inept that they do not understand how to do that. By the way, that movie made a lot of money. I'm pretty sure they're still making Jurassic movies. Are they not? Pretty sure they're being successful. I don't know how the last one did. I didn't see that one actually, but I'm pretty sure they're still making these movies, and I'm pretty sure they're doing all right. Yeah? Interesting. Okay, now let's look at the Forbes article. This is pretty interesting. So this comes from Paul Tassi. And let's read through this. I know somebody was on Twitch was talking about a different article. Maybe we could take a look at that as well, okay? Okay, Disney appears, and let me adjust this so you guys can see it a little bit better here. This is just fascinating stuff, man. Disney appears to be still wandering in the wilderness when it comes to its plans for the future Star Wars movies, with only The Mandalorian and Grogu, born out of a TV show, headed to theaters for sure. New reporting seems to focus on Rey as the potential savior of the Star Wars movie universe, which is being forced to lean less heavily into nostalgia, with so much of the Skywalker area and time periods immediately adjacent to it being mined to death. Here's THR on the fight for Rey as the next centerpiece of the movie universe. That is the article we just read. Perhaps that is why Lucasfilm was receptive to Kinberg's multi-story pitch. Anything to move Rey forward. But it does not engender rumors in the Star Wars underground of filmmakers jostling for characters. While insiders dispute the notion that there is a battle for Rey, there definitely is internal deliberation within Lucasfilm as to what to do with the heir to Skywalker next. She's the most valuable cinematic asset, in some ways, maybe the only one Star Wars has right now. Kathleen Kennedy. I mean, one source close to the franchise tells THR. The reason, of course, that everything now seems to be relying on Rey is because during the first 5 movies of the Disney era, they killed almost everyone else off. The big 3, Han, Luke, and Leia, are gone. Ben Solo also died in those films. Vader is dead. Palpatine is dead. Again, Solo was about young Han. Rogue One was a movie that killed literally its entire cast, including the lead of its current best show, Andor. I mean, that's a fair point. You might not love Paul Tassi, but he's kind of dropping some facts. That leaves the central new trio of Poe, Finn, and Rey, which makes things complicated, as none of them are anywhere close to the level of iconic as the OG characters. Oscar Isaac previously said that he was done with Star Wars, but changed his tune the last few years. John Boyega famously was irritated with Finn's treatment in the trilogy, but yes, he wants to return, hopefully as a Jedi this time. The role of Rey and the pressure that came with it unfortunately caused actress Daisy Ridley to be so stressed out she formed stomach ulcers. But she too wants to return. My God. It is, of course, hard for any actors to say no to leading a Star Wars film after all. Yeah. Disney is in a really strange spot now, however. Even with all 3 of those characters, it enters a new Skywalker-free era, and not one that can pull from Legends canon with descendant characters like Jaina and Jason. No Luke romance with Mara Jade, even if Rey was made a Palpatine at the last minute, and now has taken the name Skywalker. It's not the same thing. Thank you. Thank you. Because it is not. Outside of the new Rey movies, Disney seems to be struggling to do much of anything interesting outside of that. Dave Filoni is living out his live-action Rebels Clone Wars dreams on Disney Plus, mainly. The recent experiment to move the Disney-created High Republic era, The Acolyte, failed, at least from a viewership perspective. That's just facts. The 2 most beloved entries of the Disney era, Andor and Rogue One, have not secured those showrunners/directors for any future project for some inexplicable reason. Amazing. All of this seems like it's in flux. Yes, there are reports of this new Rey-led era, which could be a trilogy or more, but we have seen a half dozen scrapped Disney Star Wars movies in as many years. So it's hard to believe any of this comes to fruition until it actually does. And that won't be easy. By Paul. Okay. So, what the hell is actually going on? So let's take a step back. Let's cover the last couple of weeks, everything we've talked about. And I want to talk to you about what's going on, at least from my perspective, what's going on with the Hollywood trades, what's going on with Kathy, what's going on with all these other people, okay? So, remember that there are massive rumors of a Rey trilogy. Remember, Cosmic Circus called it earlier in the year. Jeff Snyder called it earlier in the year. Remember that they have a movie with Charmaine Obed-Chinoy that they are desperately trying to get ready. That was just delayed indefinitely earlier this year. Remember that they can't get a movie made for the life of them, but a lot of the stuff they have in development does focus on Rey. So you've got the Charmaine Obed-Chinoy movie. You've got Sean Levy's movie, which was supposed to involve an older version of Rey. One must wonder, too, if that was connected at all to the original vision that you had with Damon Lindelof and Britt Gibson when they were developing the Charmaine Rey movie. And then we get actual news dropped in the Hollywood trades about a trilogy of movies that will focus on Rey, that Jeff Snyder reported would see Rey in an Obi-Wan Kenobi role, and they're all three going to be produced by Kathleen Kennedy and written by Simon Kinberg. Okay? Now, after all of that happened, we had the report come out, which we talked about on Monday, which was essentially people saying the announcement of this Rey trilogy shocked executives at Disney and at Lucasfilm. So whatever's happening over there is so dysfunctional that when this trilogy was reported in the trades, executives at Lucasfilm and at Disney were shocked. And a lot of people were saying there's no way these movies are actually going to get made. That if they are going to be made, it's not for years from now. Years from now. Way after when Kathleen Kennedy is reported to step down. So what are we seeing? What's the truth? What's happening? I think right now there is a camp inside of Lucasfilm, which I would describe as Kathleen Kennedy's camp. And I think they are trying to use the press to put the idea that Rey is the future of the franchise out there into the public. I've talked about this before. Famously, we were on a Nerd Theory, and basically, Mark Fernandez came on and explained that the studios use the trades to influence, but they also use the trades to get information. Okay? So I think what's going on here is like Kathy and some of her team are making moves, and I mean literally signing for those movies and putting it out there into the trades to try to influence the conversation and also try to gain some feedback as to how fans feel about this stuff. Right. So, I remember when we were still trying to get the Snyder Cut made, and we're going to take a wild fucking turn here, okay? So, buckle up your buttholes. We're about to go crazy. Check this out. Because you might not believe that, okay? Some of you might hear what I just said, and you're like, bro, it ain't that deep. There's not camps inside of studios. They're not going to fake news, put shit out, and see how it's all reacted to. Some of you might be skeptic of that. Well, let me tell you my lived experience. I don't interact with a lot of Hollywood people. Okay? I've kind of always been off on my own. I don't even get screeners. I don't like to go... I don't like to have any kind of connection to the studios whatsoever. Okay? The only time that ever changed, and the only time that I personally had Hollywood trade reporters in my DMs, and we were like debating and talking about stuff, was during the time when the Snyder Cut was trying to be made, and there was a big fight inside Warner Brothers as to the future of the franchise. And people from the Wrap were in my DMs trying to influence how I reported on different rumors, especially with regards to Ben Affleck's Batman. If you go really deep into this time period, you will remember crazy stories like Jason Momoa is working with Jeff Johns on a Frosty the Snowman movie, which was completely false. It was completely fabricated and reported in the trades because they were trying to influence how certain people, because you got to understand, it's a big town of you scratch my back, I scratch your back. Connections are everything. It's very insulary over there, okay? So if you're a person like Jason Momoa, or even somebody connected to the camp, and you see news like that, you're going to be discouraged from having any comment, from inputting at all on the current narrative. It also makes people disbelieve other reports, like that Ben Affleck's Batman was going to pop up in a bunch of stuff. Remember, he was supposed to be in, he was in The Flash. He was supposed to be in Aquaman 2. I believe James Gunn himself removed that. Don't quote me on that, but that shit happened. So it's all a big game over there. I basically tell you this because when I went through that whole experience with the Ben Affleck shit, I had never felt pressure like that before in my life. Like people trying to give me scoops, but they're really trying to influence how I report on a thing because it's all a big game. It's all a big game. Okay? Now, let's take that lived experience imprinted on what is happening here with Star Wars. Okay? So, I believe what is happening right now is a battle for the soul of Star Wars. I believe Kathleen Kennedy views her legacy as inherently connected to the character of Rey. I believe right now there is real danger of the future of Star Wars having nothing to do with that character. And so, therefore, what I think we are living through right now is a fight in the press that is being pushed by Kathleen Kennedy's camp because what she's trying to do is sort of get it established that Rey's the future of the franchise. I think she wants that out there as an expectation. And she also wants to show all of these people that are retweeting it, that are super excited or all that sort of stuff. She wants to like show that as a data point to reinforce the decision. But I think when you realize that the announcement threw executives off at Lucasfilm and at Disney, I think when you realize that even people like Paul Tassi, even people like Jordan Mason, a lot of people that traditionally went to bat for Kathleen Kennedy for years are not exactly backing that horse. The way I am interpreting this goddamn ridiculous back and forth is that there is a real battle going on here. And so what can I tell you insofar as like, what is the actual news? Like what is actually happening? I believe that Kathleen Kennedy is trying to do as much as she possibly can before she steps down to establish a plan for Star Wars that essentially honors her legacy. If the franchise instead rejects that and goes in a completely different direction, that's a bad look for her. So I think we kind of just got to watch and see how this shakes out. I mean, I would like to believe, and I almost feel myself saying it, right? Like, oh, okay, well, maybe Skeleton Crew will have impact on this decision. Maybe Ahsoka Season 2 will have impact on this decision. Maybe Andor Season 2 will have impact on this decision. Maybe the Mandalorian and Grogu movie will have impact on this decision. But to believe that, I would have to believe that Lucasfilm is in a reality in which they face consequences. I actually don't believe that. For whatever reason, I think Kathleen Kennedy has been protected mostly by Bob Iger himself. I know both of them are leaving next year. It was just reported yesterday Bob Iger will be stepping down in 2026. So for now, I think we'll just wait and see. But what I would say to you is this. Let your voice be heard. I think we are maybe at a place with Star Wars where we're so dejected. Not everybody, of course. But I think a lot of people are so dejected that they don't even have it in them to go on Twitter and complain about Rey. Like, we're so defeated that there's not even enough enthusiasm to properly protest what is happening. And I would just say to you, don't let them win. Let your voice be heard. And to be honest with you, this kind of feels like the battle for Gondor. Like, y'all made some oaths. Y'all said you cared. Now is the time. Like, I really and truly feel this way. I've said this before, too. I've said this before in different moments. I remember there was a moment when Marvel Studios was actually looking at Jake Gyllenhaal to be Reed Richards. Like, it was close. Like, people were telling me, like, oh, he's in talks. Like, he might actually do it. And I remember I said, if you don't want Mysterio to be Reed, you better say something now. You better get out there and let your voice be heard. And luckily, they didn't offer him enough money, so he did not end up doing it. But we also somehow got a worse casting choice. I don't know what the fuck's going on. But my point is this. Don't let them win. Make your voice be heard. And I will just say this, as a fan, I really don't know how I will be able to support it if they make this decision. I want to be excited about Star Wars. This does not make me excited. Okay? And I thought, Lucasfilm, I really thought that Acolyte would be like the bitch slap of truth that y'all needed to see that Twitter wasn't real. And I have some hope that maybe there are people over there, either at Lucasfilm or at Disney proper, that did get that bitch slap of truth, that do understand that Twitter ain't real. Please, for the love of God, do not greenlight a Rey trilogy. Please, for the love of God, do not listen to whoever the source is that is saying that Rey Skywalker is the best asset y'all have. Please do not listen to motherfuckers that say it is only 3 movies from the 70s. Any Star Wars fan worth their weight in salt understands what the expanded universe was. And I'm not saying you have to fully tap into the expanded universe, but there's one guy over there at your company that thinks you do. His name's Dave Filoni, and he's been desperately trying to right your ship for years. He wants to do expanded universe shit. They are building towards Abeloth. Abeloth. You want to know what's a more valuable resource to the brand than Rey stupid-ass Skywalker? Abeloth. Dash Rendar. Darth Bane. Malgus. Mara Jade. Talon card. Literally open up an expanded universe book, flip to a random page, and put your stinky pinky on any part of it. That character is more valuable than Rey Skywalker. And I'm not even kidding. So for the love of all things holy, somebody with common sense, please step in. Please step in. Okay, so that's the first story. The merry-go-round keeps going. The roller coaster ride won't stop. Ups and downs all around, twists and turns. Let's chill for a second. What do you guys think? Any thoughts? Any comments? Paradise says, I can't wait for the behind-the-scenes doc that comes out about this era of Lucasfilm. Yeah. Yup. Zach says, Josh, I think your take is spot on, but I ask you this. Haven't we been letting our voices be heard for years? She doesn't give a shit about the fans. Yes, that's fair. Here's what I would say to you, though. We have to assume there are still rational and reasonable people there. I would also say that she wouldn't be going to this length if it wasn't a desperate situation. That's not facts. That's more of like my gut feeling. But my gut feeling is that we wouldn't even be hearing about any of this if it were not desperate times for Kathleen Kennedy. I think it's possible that Acolyte changed things. I think it's possible that South Park changed things. So what I'm asking you to is I'm asking you to use your voice to speak to those potential people that still have rational thoughts left in their brain. But yes, that's a fair point. Mr. JB gifting 5 members. Holy shit, brother. Thank you. That's very generous, man. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. John Cross says, so Kathy doesn't want to happen to her exact same thing she did to George? What a biatch. That is ironic. Palpatine would say it too. Ironic. She could shit on all of George's legacy, but couldn't handle anyone shitting on hers. Optimus Prime Rib says with a 5 spot. So she dies halfway through the first movie, then becomes an annoying Force ghost for the rest. Can you fucking imagine, bro? By the way, do y'all remember when Thanos cracked Captain Marvel in the face? People literally cheered. Okay? People literally cheered. So can you imagine the response from the fans? I would love to see this in the theater reaction. Rey makes a noble sacrifice. Everybody starts clapping. Ding dong, the witch is dead, the wicked witch of the sequels. Ah! And then, like, the next scene, she pops up as a Force ghost, and we're all like, no! No! Incredible reaction. Aaliyah says, so relieved this is your outlook about the Rey movies. Your post had me, eek, no. Our job is to be vocal online to show that we don't want these. I agree. And by the way, that does not mean being toxic towards other people. That does not mean harassing other people. There are like, I think 10,000 people that watched all of Acolyte, that love Rey, like they exist. Okay, they're a very small group of people, but they exist. They disproportionately look like a bigger group on Twitter. Don't go harass those people. Just make your own voice heard on its own and hope that there are enough good people out there that would retweet it and get it viral or something. Like that's kind of what we have to do. Philip Hatch says with a 10 spot. You'd imagine if all these crazy trade articles are coming out about a studio, the president of that studio would want to come out and set the record straight. LOL. How is Bob Iger okay with this? I think Bob Iger is a very good friend of not only Kathy, but of Frank Marshall. And I think that Bob just really respects and has a lot of admiration for what was going on with Kathy. I also think that Bob Iger kind of like Grima worm-tongued Kathy after George was out of the picture. So there could be this weird alliance because Bob Iger feels some ownership over Kathy and the decisions that were made. Because remember, Bob Iger was like, hey, George, we'll buy those treatments. Oh, by the way, we ain't doing none of your shit, Georgie. You already signed, bitch. So maybe that's what's going on. I'm not really sure. I'm excited to see Disney without both of these figures. And by the way, Kathleen Kennedy, not all bad. She was really good at helping Steven Spielberg make movies. You know, thank you for your service. E.T. is great. But you fucked this Star Wars thing up, so please leave. And it's similar to Iger. Like, Iger did some good, Iger did some bad, right? Like, everybody loves to blame the guy that was CEO for 2 minutes for all the fucking problems that Disney had over the past couple of years. That's ridiculous. Who created Disney Plus and the mandates? It wasn't Bob Chapek, it was Bob Iger. Okay, and I like Bob Iger. I think he's maybe top 5 CEOs of all time. Incredible pedigree. But the times, they are a-changing. So we need new blood, in my opinion. In the Pit says, what the fuck does Rey is an Obi-Wan role mean? Daisy will lead all 3 movies, not necessarily have the story revolve around her. This sucks. Yeah. No, I think that's pretty much what it means. And also, like, how crazy are they to think that they are all out of nostalgia, so the only nostalgia or the only play left is Rey? Like, that's just so crazy to me, dude. That's so crazy to me. My God. Okay, Cav says, give us more Luke Skywalker through an animated series. Everyone knows Mark Hamill is a great voice actor. After all, he's literally Luke F. and Skywalker. After the sequels, it's the least they can do. Yeah, and you know what else is crazy? Is like, nobody's talking. Did nobody in any of these articles mention that Luke Skywalker literally came back after being killed, and it was one of the most poppin' moments the fandom had ever experienced? Like, I don't know. You can't do that? The next movie we're about to see, in fact, let me throw something at you, chap. Let me give you something to be positive about. Okay? Let me give you something positive to think about. The only Star Wars movie that is guaranteed to come out is The Mandalorian and Grogu. Official reports are that the movie is done filming. But I can show you an article by Bespin Bulletin, who's very good. And Bespin says they are not done filming. And in fact, Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni will be filming until about now, actually. Maybe a little bit later into November. The reason I bring that up is because the last time, because here's probably what's happening. Like, let me explain this. It is probably the case that John and Dave are done with principal photography, okay? They're done shooting with the full cast and crew. But they're not done shooting. And the last time something like this happened, we got a surprise Luke Skywalker cameo at the end of Mandalorian Season 2. They filmed principal with Plo Koon. They filmed principal. Nobody had any idea that it was Luke Skywalker. And then they went in and shot with a skeleton crew on the weekends. And they shot the Luke Skywalker stuff. So I'm not saying 100% for sure that we are getting Luke Skywalker in The Mandalorian and Grogu. But the moment I heard that those two guys were filming Beyond Principle, I immediately thought we're probably getting Luke Skywalker. So while all this shit is going on, and while the puppets in the Hollywood trades are saying to you that they can't do nostalgia anymore and anything like that, you might have the two fucking guys, John and Dave, literally about to give you another nostalgia dose of Luke Skywalker, and I hope they do. So it just, all of this speaks to the wider dysfunction of Lucasfilm, their inability to understand the very brand that they are in charge of heralding. It is so crazy, man. It is so crazy. Okay, anything else, guys, before we move on? Kyle says, watching the George interview saying he wants to sell to someone who wouldn't improve his own work sucks, seeing the current state of Star Wars. Yeah, that interview is pretty wild, huh? George didn't admit that publicly, though. Another person did about him. Jaron says, in the Thunderdome of Twitter, how do you get rational takes to Lucas execs when that doesn't garner clicks like the grifters? I mean, that's a fair question. I don't exactly know, and I think that's part of the problem. Because I think a lot of, I frankly think a lot of the early criticism of Lucasfilm was so goddamn ridiculous. Like, a lot of the Fandom Menace stuff was so out of pocket so early that it basically became the boy who cried wolf. Like, by the time Lucasfilm had actually caught up to, like, the reality that they were selling during the sequel trilogy, it was almost too late. Because it was super easy to put all of that criticism into the bucket of toxicity. So there's a problem there for sure. I guess I'm just desperate that we would get the word out in some way, shape, or form. Because this shit is crazy, dude. Like this, I can barely imagine a scenario where Star Wars isn't a Star Trek or worse level brand if they actually move forward with Rey. Like, I legitimately believe that. I don't think people like Rey like that. I'm not saying nobody likes Rey. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is there's not enough people that are excited about Rey in the wake of all of the drama of Star Wars to be able to support what they're trying to do. Right? Like, doesn't that make sense? Aaliyah says, I'm using my voice as a fan to most of the sequel trilogy, especially TLJ, to say I don't want this. Oh, fan of the TLJ. Yeah, I saw your tweet. Hopefully my voice helps not have generalization re-fans. I mean, we can see. Vandolph says the Rey heel turn is the only viable solution. I would take that. Rossi says, will the Rey stuff be connected to the Filoni verse? I mean, that would help. And then Kale says, 5 spot for the solid take. Appreciate you, brother. Each Skywalker got 3 films. Rey is done. Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. Paradise says with the... Oh, yeah, we already got that one. Okay. I'm not saying we can't talk more about this, but let's move on. Let's move on to some bigger and better things, okay? So let's first talk about Captain America Brave New World, okay? So yesterday, there were shots, and I can find them for you. Let me find them for you here. Yesterday, there were shots of Anthony Mackie in L.A., doing pickups. Okay, so here it is right here. I'll bring it up for you guys to see. So, I mean, look, I really want to say here, I'm rooting for this movie. I want to sort of blanket the whole take here by saying I am rooting for this movie. And I'm not anywhere near the frustration level I am with Star Wars and the Rey news to where I am at with Captain America. So I want to really make that clear. I like Anthony Mackie. I like Sam Wilson. I think Sam Wilson as Captain America can work. I'm not convinced that it is working, but I think it can work. I'm not one of these hashtag not my cap guys. Okay, I want to make that very clear. And shout out to Mackie because he was in Brazil over the weekend, and he's in fucking LA on Monday, shooting again for the movie. Okay? Now, the only sort of problem with this is that he's still shooting this goddamn movie, right? Like, and maybe it's just pickups and stuff like that, right? But either way, they're continuing to shoot Captain America Brave New World. Okay, and even over here, I will show you. The tweet I had was Marvel is throwing everything they have at this movie. Rumors are the studio will be working on it till 2 weeks before release. So they're throwing every goddamn thing they have at this movie to make it as good as possible. And I think we're coming off of the heels of a pretty good trailer. I mean, you guys tell me, what did you think of that new trailer? I thought it was the best trailer that they have put out so far for the film. I think without a doubt, it's the best trailer they've put out for the film. I made my case on Monday that I'm seeing Russo brother fingerprints all over the trailer. I think that the focus on the style, the vignettes, the music, and also just these crazy action shots is a real Russo brother thing, okay? Now, to add a little bit of context to this and maybe possibly even give a little bit more credit to the Russo brothers, it just came out yesterday that the original director of Captain America Brave New World is not overseeing the current reshoots. So this isn't necessarily super uncommon, but it's not a great sign. Okay? Now, apparently this dude is going to be real chill about this. He's still going to be credited as the director. He will be promoting the movie next year. So this is more of a Rogue One situation than it is a Borderlands situation. If you know, you know. Okay? However, it is still not necessarily the best sign. Okay? So, they have either a completely different director, maybe, a B unit director, or maybe the Russo brothers themselves are out there shooting the most recent rounds of reshoots for the movie. And on top of all of this, Mackie came out on Instagram the day after these photos leaked and posted a photo of him as Captain America, okay? So I can kind of like feel Mackie, maybe trying to counteract, let's just face it, horrible press surrounding this movie. I think the big question is, can this movie and the reshoots outpace the baggage of the rumor mill, of the leaks? Because people have not been kind when talking about this film. It is apparently testing pretty poorly internally. Okay? Can the movie outpace all of that baggage? I'm not sure, but it's giving it its best effort. Okay? So, as far as like the official reporting, as far as like trying to keep you guys up to date as much as possible, it seems like, again, we were sort of on it. They're reshooting this thing again. They're going to keep reshooting this thing. They're probably going to be working on the visual effects right up until 2 weeks before the film. I would imagine they'd like to get the new version, some screen tests before the end of the year, before everybody goes like on vacation for the holidays. So I would expect some news in the next couple of weeks here about the new tested screened version of the film. And hopefully I get to come out here on video with y'all and be like, dude, they're saying it's much better. Dude, they're saying this one might be the one. I'm not really sure what'll happen, of course. But again, I am rooting for this movie, dude. I want this movie to do well. I want Mackie to be cool as Cap. I want the action to be unbelievable. I want to be excited to watch Thunderbolts because Bucky had a cool cameo, and oh my God, they might be building the new Avengers. I want to be excited about it. So a lot of questions still about the film. I'm rooting for it. I'm rooting for Mackie. But unfortunately, the reality of the movie and how it's going is not super great. So that's the next story. If you have any feedback, thoughts, questions, we can pause and we can talk about this for a little bit, okay? They can't blame Kang if it fails now. I mean, that's true. That's true. They really think they have done no service for Mackie. They really think they have done no service for Mackie. What you mean? What do you mean by that, brother? Do we know who is directing the reshoots? We do not. We do not know. At least I have not seen it reported. How much it gonna make to make profit? Oh, bro. I think at this point it would have to make close to $1 billion to break even, from what I understand. You know, I don't know for sure. I've been told all sorts of numbers, but let's put it at between 300 and 400 million, which is absurd. That's absurd, bro. You know what I mean? Yeah, it could be the Russo brothers. It really could be. I doubt it's the Russo brothers. They're pretty busy working on Doomsday. But they also are producers on this movie, apparently, right? And so I think they are invested in these movies because they need the brand to be at least strong enough to make sure that their big movies are huge. Because remember, the Russo brothers do have kickbacks that set in if they get to $1 billion on each of the movies. So the Russos are, and the whole production company, because it's a whole team, they are fixated on hitting $1 billion for each movie. I almost think you're guaranteed $1 billion now that you got RDJ and all the craziness and everything like that. But like, if Marvel shits the bed for a year straight, that's not going to help their chances, right? So they're invested in these movies, right? Yeah, I think if it hits 800 million, they break even. But like, one of the things that I think we need to appreciate about Marvel specifically, right? I mean, this is a franchise that has grossed over $30 billion. It's the most valuable asset that Disney currently owns as far as IP, and I don't think it's close. I mean, maybe you could put something like Frozen, Moana, Toy Story. I mean, those are really valuable IPs. But I think even if you add up all the gross of Toy Story, even all the gross of Inside Out, all these other movies, we're not anywhere close to $30 billion. So Marvel, in some ways, is in the business of not necessarily making a profit on all of these movies, but in rehabilitating the state of the brand so that it can continue to print money. Like, Blade is a movie that you could spend $50 million on and make insane profit. Unless the whole Marvel brand is toast. Like, does that make sense? Like, they can make a lot of money from Marvel. They need Captain America 4 to be as good as humanly possible, way more than they needed to make money. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? And also, I would say that somehow they've been handed a crazy miracle in the form of Thunderbolts. Because I think Thunderbolts is a pretty cheap movie, but it has hype, dude. It has buzz. It has buzz. So I think Thunderbolts might help some of that profit over time. You know what I mean? So it's an interesting game that Marvel Studios plays. I mean, frankly, Disney themselves is a unique studio because they have a pipeline to be able to make money off brands that is like well beyond the cinema, right? Parks, attraction, merchandising, licenses, like, it's huge. Like, Spider-Man makes like billions of dollars a year, even in years where there's no Spider-Man movie. Does that make sense? So, I mean, look, I understand it because, like, at some point the bill comes due, right? Like, at some point, like, for instance, like, I would have maybe canceled a lot of Phase 4 stuff and just put all of that money into, you know, Secret Wars or some other stuff, right? But they didn't do that. And despite losing a ton of money, like, what's a bigger L? Secret Invasion or Kenobi? I mean, I would argue it's Kenobi. Secret Invasion did some serious brand damage. I think it was a big wake-up call to Marvel Studios. I saw a really interesting graph the other day of like the viewership of Disney Plus series after Secret Invasion. It was bad, bro. However, I think Kenobi did way more damage to the Star Wars brand than Secret Invasion could have ever done. These are not just characters. This is the heart of one of the most important arcs of your entire franchise, dude. Kenobi was so bad. That's what I mean. It's like Marvel has some unique advantages. You know what I mean? Like they really do. The comic book medium itself comes with sort of inherent built-in programming. Like, frankly, it's part of why we could even put up with Phase 4. Because most of us, if you've been reading comics, you've gone through many years where comics were shit. Maybe some of your favorite characters. I mean, what is the current run of Zeb Wells' Amazing Spider-Man? What is it, like 60-plus issues? 60-plus issues that people have been losing their goddamn minds about for like 6 years. And yet, it's still one of the top sellers. And yet, Ultimate Spider-Man is a top seller. And whatever happens next with Spider-Man is still going to be one of the top sellers. Like, are you picking up what I'm setting down? So it's a different kind of thing. Now, having said that, I still want this movie to be really good. I still think if Captain America 4 is really, really good, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, kind of an interesting, unique situation. I appreciate the questions. I appreciate the feedback, guys. And look, just trying to report what is going on out there so that you guys are in the know. I mean, to me, I think it's important that the Nerdvengers are the smartest, most informed group on the internet. And I'm trying to do my best to give you the info. So, Captain America 4, reshooting again. Director not there. Maybe it be good. Okay. Should we talk some Denzel, baby? Should we talk some Denzel in Black Panther 3? This one's pretty cool. Oh, a brand new Q&A? Oh, that's beautiful. Delicious. We'll talk about that after this story, okay? Thank you, man. Okay. Let me take a sip of water. Yesterday, Denzel Washington shocked a lot of the comic book movie community by announcing in an interview in which he was promoting Gladiator 2 that Ryan Coogler was writing a role for him in Black Panther 3. Now, that's pretty crazy. Because number one, I don't know that we even knew Black Panther 3 was a thing. Technically, Letitia did talk about it, but that was a long time ago. By the way, sort of side note here. Do you guys all remember when she was, you know, in trouble during lockdown and all the vax stuff, and people were like, oh, she's gone. She'll never be Black Panther. They're moving away from her. She doesn't even want to do the role. Do you guys remember that? That's like a whole thing. If you have any questions about that, we'll get into it later, all right? Regardless, the point is, Letitia had talked about this, I think it was over a year ago. We didn't really hear much after that. Now, Coogler himself, big part of Marvel's plans. Coogler was actually attached to be one of the names for Secret Wars. Before the Russos were coming, I think Coogler was one of those names. A lot of insiders had talked about that. I don't know that he even wanted to do it. I know that he's involved in a lot of development. Like, I think he's a part of Eyes of Wakanda. I think he's a part of potential other Wakandan things being developed within the MCU. So Coogler, he's still the guy over there. Now he's going to do his like vampire thing right now. with Michael B., which is pretty cool. I like Coogler a lot. Really, really good director, okay? So it's shocking, number one, because we didn't even know for sure that Black Panther 3 was happening. Now, not only do we know it's happening, we know that Denzel's going to be in it and that Coogler is writing a part specifically for him. According to what else Denzel said, because of course we got to ask who could he play, and if we want to know who he could play, we got to know what he's willing to do. He was speaking about how this is kind of the twilight of his career. He was speaking about wanting to do things that he hadn't done yet and working with people that he hadn't worked with yet. Okay, so he had like a really specific plan, some specific creators that he wanted to work with. It all seems chill. He also spoke about retirement. Okay, so it does not seem like this is a long-term gig, which rules out certain things. Now, I want to remind you that just a month ago, Production Weekly had let it slip that Denzel was going to be in Doctor Strange 3 as Dormammu. And I remember I said then, I was like, I don't know about that shit. That does not seem real. How could they cast for that movie? They haven't even written it or greenlit it as far as I know. And why would Denzel be Dormammu? That don't make no damn sense. Okay, so now let's think about Production Weekly with maybe a grain of salt. Because that shit was not real. Before that, there were rumors that Denzel would be the new Magneto. Which I actually thought would be cool. I'm going to be real. I was like, nah, that would be cool. Giancarlo Esposito as Professor X. Denzel Washington as Magneto. I would really like that. I think it would be cool. I know you guys have feelings about race bending and, you know, all these changes to the comic book characters. Your mileage may vary on that. You know, your feelings are your feelings. It's all good. I thought it would be cool. Mostly just because those dudes can act their ass off. Right? So I thought it would be kind of interesting. I think this news here rules that out as well, though. Even though Black Panther 3 will likely take place in the mutant saga, the fact that Denzel is talking about retirement does not make me think that he is going to be Magneto. So I think all of the other roles that Denzel was attached to, we can pretty much rule them out. Okay? So who could he be playing? Well, if we consider that Coogler's writing the role for him, if we consider that he wants to do stuff that he's never done before, and we consider that he's going to retire shortly after, we're probably looking at a character that's important. I think a superhero, although there's debate on that as well, right? Even within our own community, you know, on the Discord, some people said, I can't see Denzel being a superhero. I can't see him being in tights, etc., etc. I would actually point to his statements about doing things that he had never done before, and I would say he's never been a superhero. That kind of makes me think he would be willing to do it. Okay? Now, also, this could be an original character that Coogler creates. I think that is also in line with Coogler, especially thinking in terms of Wakanda and the lore there, because, you know, and we're going to get into like recast T'Challa stuff in a second here. I know some of you guys are probably like, it doesn't matter. I do think Ryan Coogler sees himself as a shepherd of Wakanda more than he sees himself a shepherd of T'Challa's legacy. I don't even think he would disagree with that. Okay? So Coogler could be writing something that is more about Wakanda and its place in the world, and Denzel could be an interesting piece to that puzzle. I can see that. Now, I think the most popular pick out there is that he would play Blue Marvel. Blue Marvel, very, very interesting character. Blue Marvel is similar to Sentry in a way because he was a hero and then he like isn't a hero for a long, long time and becomes a hero again. Now, in the case of Adam Broussard, as opposed to Bob Reynolds, there's like bigotry and like the nation just wasn't ready for a black superhero or whatever. So like that social element of the black experience is sort of cooked in to the character of Blue Marvel. And you could see maybe Coogler, maybe Denzel himself being interested in exploring that element, right? I also think beyond that, Blue Marvel's just super cool, dude. Like, he's just a cool character. He's very powerful, so he can, like, punch the shit out of the Hulk. He's very, very strong. Super cool. He's ex-military, which is interesting. He's a scientist, so he's brilliant. That's interesting. I personally like a lot of the stuff with Blue Marvel in, like, the Al Ewing Defenders story. You know, even Eternity Wars, Blue Marvel plays a part in that story. So I think there's a lot of fertile ground with Blue Marvel. The only thing that I would say is, like, if we're getting Denzel as Blue Marvel ain't sticking around. And so maybe that's okay. Maybe you're like, dude, that's fun. I want Adam Burchard. Maybe you were like, nah, do somebody else because I'd like them to be around for a while. I also would say Ryan Coogler kind of has a habit of, like, fucking killing all his characters, okay? Killed T'Challa's dad. He killed T'Challa's mom. He killed T'Challa. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, man. I don't know if we want Denzel to be Blue Marvel and get killed again. It's like, how much trauma do you have to put into these movies? It's fucking ridiculous. My opinion. I guess it was the Russos that killed his dad, technically, yeah? Now, the other pick that I thought of that would be kind of interesting is Bishop. Because, again, we're in the Mutant Saga. And there's potentially a story that could be cooked up with Storm and either Prince T'Challa, if they make Storm really young and they age up Prince T'Challa, or if they recast T'Challa and then they have T'Challa and Storm. That's a really interesting couple and a dynamic. It would fit within the context of the Mutant Saga. And it would be really interesting to set some, like, Avengers and X-Men beef, because one of the coolest things that happened during Avengers vs. X-Men was, like, Storm and Black Panther. Their marriage is ripped apart by that conflict, basically. And it's really interesting. So that could be cool. And you could have Bishop come from the future to try to prevent what is happening in the present with maybe T'Challa and Storm or just the mutants in general, right? So that's kind of interesting. And then the other option here, and I think this is like the wildest possibility, is that he is actually connected to a recast T'Challa. So this all has to do with the rumors of a soft rebooted MCU. Okay? So the MCU is rumored to do a soft reboot after Secret Wars. And essentially what it's going to be like is a universe where the X-Men, the Spider-Man, the Fantastic Four, the Avengers, all of those groups exist in one world. The way it was always meant to be. And in that world, we might get a new Tony Stark. We might get a new Steve Rogers. We might get a new pick your character. Okay? I mean, particularly with the X-Men, I think this is really interesting, right? The rumors are that Hugh Jackman will continue to be Wolverine, but he's not going to be on the X-Men team. So then it's like, okay, is it James Marsden as Cyclops, or is it a new person? I think both are viable options. Well, with all of that conversation and context coming in, if you apply that to the Black Panther movies, then you have the perfect opportunity to just bring T'Challa back to life. I mean, you're already going to have to do a bunch of sort of finangoing to get the audience to understand what was canon from the past, what isn't. I also have this wild thought, which we talked about briefly on stream yesterday, right? Like, it's possible that just like the blip was made a canon part of the 616, maybe the consolidated universe is actually a plot point in the new MCU. So you'd have like institutions around the world sort of grappling with the concept of a bunch of new characters that weren't in their universe now being in their universe. Does that make sense? So basically, there are a number of ways you could get to a new T'Challa. Perhaps a multiversal variant of T'Challa that is now staking a claim as the ruler of Wakanda. And perhaps certain Wakandans feel differently about that. That could be interesting. Maybe the canon itself has just changed. And T'Challa never died. And he's back. Now, out of all of this news with Denzel, the wildest theory to come out of it, let me see if I can pull this up for you guys, because I think this would be fascinating. Check this out. This is a wild theory here. Omega Level Sex Man, incredible name, by the way, says, LMAO, Denzel trying to get his son that T'Challa recast role. He not slick. And I said, I actually think this could be what's going on. So what is this now? What am I saying here? Well, John David Washington was one of the actors that people thought could play a recast T'Challa. And so wouldn't it be wild as shit if Denzel's role is that of T'Chaka, and he'll either be used in the framing of the ancestral plane, or maybe he's alive as well, and John David Washington is the new T'Challa. Now that's a total ass pull. That's like a Hail Mary, fanboy dreaming, total speculation. And yet, I'm not the only one thinking it. So there are a lot of interesting possibilities with Denzel coming into Black Panther 3. But now, we must shift the conversation and talk about the reaction to this. Okay? And of course, I am speaking about recast T'Challa. The movement, the community. In the article that was released in the Hollywood Trades yesterday, which again, we've already established, they have a relationship with the studios. In a lot of ways, they are a tool of the studios. So in the Hollywood Trades that announced this, they talked about how Chadwick Boseman had revealed on stage that there would be no Black Panther without Denzel Washington, because Denzel Washington secretly paid for a summer of acting lessons for Chadwick Boseman. So not only is that real, but it was written into the Hollywood Trade article. My reaction to this was, that's cool, man. Hits me in my feels. Hits me in my feels. Do you know what the reaction was from recast T'Challa? They said it was more emotional manipulation from the studio to get people to forget that they made the wrong call and that they're not just doing the right thing in recasting T'Challa. And I will say, I don't know that they are wrong. I think it's a jaded take, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong. Because I really do think that Marvel made a mistake here. And I really do think that they are discounting the many voices out there, a lot of them young black men, that are just trying to express how this is not only wrong, but it's almost like the opposite of what the studio claims to be trying to do. Right? And if you really think about it, again, I'm not necessarily saying that that's what's going on. But I will say, after I heard that reaction, I did sort of take a pause and take a step back and say, Damn. So, I guess the best way to sort of move forward, the best way to kind of quell those concerns from the fans is just to do both. Recast T'Challa and bring Denzel Washington in. I will also say it's not like the studios themselves told Denzel to say that, but they seemed pretty fucking ready to pull at the heartstrings in that trade article. Okay? We don't know what the actual motivation is here. But, I mean, look, I've said this a lot. I can't even watch Wakanda Forever, personally. Like, I can't even watch that movie anymore. It is so sad. It is so full of trauma. I cannot believe they killed Angela Bassett's character, which, by the way, she fought against that shit. They still did it. So, I guess the question is this. This is really the question. We seem to be in an era in Marvel Studios where they're willing to accept that they've kind of fucked up. Look at Daredevil, okay? The original concept of Daredevil was for it to be completely different from the Netflix version. They wanted it to stand on its own. They wanted it to be the MCU's Daredevil. They wanted it to be completely different. They looked at the tape and they were like, this shit ain't working. Let's go back to the Daredevil well. You look at X-Men 97 and it's really a callback to what worked before, which seems counter to a lot of these other shows. You know what I mean? Frankly, like you look at What If, one of the biggest problems with What If is that it's like, what if was confined to the Marvel Cinematic Universe and everything it's done, right? There was a mandate that you couldn't do any characters that did not already exist in the MCU. That's not What If. Not really. So we can kind of see that the mentality from Marvel Studios has at least adjusted to the reality of what the fans want. My question is, where does that stop when it comes to T'Challa? Like, if they are willing to realize that they have been wrong about these certain things and they are changing, does that just stop at T'Challa? I hope not. And I think they have the full breadth of the Marvel catalog and the creativity of their writers and their directors to do any goddamn thing they want. They are literally bringing back Robert Downey Jr. as Doctor Doom. We're about to watch Harrison Ford as the Red Hulk, a character whose actor also died of cancer. So why can't we recast T'Challa? I don't really understand it. Now, if they don't recast T'Challa, is that going to make me reject this next movie? No. I'm still going to check it out, and I hope it's better than Wakanda Forever. I hope it's incredible. I hope Denzel cuts it up. I hope it's really cool. But, like, this is an issue. And it's so interesting that, like, what was supposed to be this really big, popular piece of information, this big piece of news, it hits the internet, and people are divided. What did Wakanda Forever do box office wise? But let's look at this. Box Office Mojo. Let's check it out. So it made like 200 million less than Black Panther about, right? I mean, it still did very well. 859, that's pretty good, no way around it. And then let's look at Black Panther. Wow, it made 500 million less. That is significant. That is significant. 500 million less. So, Denzel Washington in Black Panther 3. It is exciting. But I think it sort of reveals some problems, some fissures in the fandom, and frankly, stuff that I don't even think they need to be dealing with. Like, I think they could solve these problems. I think they could satisfy the majority of the fan base. And so that's the scoop. That's the story. I'd love to know your thoughts. I know it's kind of a controversial subject, maybe. But, yeah. What are your thoughts? What do you think, chat? Who do you think Denzel could be playing? Are you excited for the movie? What do you think? What you said about them using his death to pull on heartstrings to get asses in seats makes a lot of sense. Yeah, a lot of people feel that way. They don't even have to recast now. They can just say, we will recast after Secret Wars. I agree. Is that black coffee? Yeah, that's... we make cold brew in the house. I just drink so much coffee that, like, we can't afford to keep buying it all. So we make our own cold brew now. They need to hold the L and recast. I mean, I agree. Yeah, I mean, I think Atosuke actually does bring up a good point. I know a lot of people will point to, the Pandy or, a lack of Chad. But I would bring up two movies that kind of counteract this. Number one, Dark Knight Returns. So The Dark Knight was actually propelled because of Heath Ledger's death, and it had serious legs. I think the opposite happened with Wakanda Forever. I think a lot of people initially showed up out of interest for what they were going to do with, T'Challa's passing. But, like, I did not see that movie a second time in theaters. I was like, enough is enough. And I think that's just what a lot of people did. So, like, I think when you compare Dark Knight to Wakanda Forever, which I don't even think Dark Knight cracked $1 billion. But my point is, Dark Knight had legs and trajectory. I don't think Wakanda Forever did. I think they were a little surprised at the drop-off for Wakanda Forever. Also, I would point to Spider-Man No Way Home. Spider-Man No Way Home came out even before Wakanda Forever, right? Unless I'm wrong. I believe Spider-Man No Way Home came out even earlier in the pandy. And that thing made almost $2 billion without China. So, like, you can't say that it was the pandemic and Chad passing that hurt Wakanda Forever. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, you can say it. I would just argue that I don't think so. So, look, it's interesting. It is an interesting conversation, and who knows for sure. I just think that particular argument doesn't hold a lot of water. I don't think it was ever going to do $1 billion without Chad. Yeah, again, I understand that. I don't agree, but I understand what you're saying. I get it. Spider-Man is a certified $1 billion brand, though. Yeah, I mean, Black Panther was a fucking phenomenon, dude. Like, I don't know if y'all remember what happened with the first Black Panther movie. It made 1.5 worldwide. It was crazy. So, like, I think you're discounting Black Panther a little bit. That was one of the biggest, hottest movies Marvel had ever made. Black Panther 1 was a phenomenon. You know what I mean? It was a phenomenon. I saw that one multiple times in theaters. That movie's lit. So was Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel made, I think, just over $1 billion for sure. But let's look at that. Yeah, 1.1. So 400 million less than Black Panther. Way less domestic than Black Panther. 700 million worldwide. That's pretty crazy for Captain Marvel. But there's actually a decent comparison there because both of those movies' sequels really underperformed. The Marvels was like a massive bomb. Wakanda Forever, not as bad, but still a huge drop-off. I think we all know, too, that Captain Marvel was kind of artificially inflated because it took place after Infinity War, and people thought it was going to be important for Endgame. And, like, as somebody whose entire channel blew up in that 1 year period, like, without Infinity War and Endgame, I'm probably still working at a restaurant. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, that's how significant that was for my career trajectory. I will tell you that, like, it would probably be impossible for Marvel shit to fail during that year. Like, it was so hot. You had so many people paying attention. It was fucking wild. It was a wild time. So I think Captain Marvel was sort of artificially pumped up because of those two movies. You know what I'm saying? A1 Exec FPS, appreciate the 5-spot, brother, says, even my 70-plus-year-old grandparents went to see the first Black Panther movie. It was a huge deal in the culture. Yeah, 100%. You can't deny it, man. Like, you can't deny it. It was massive. It was massive, yeah. Yeah. All right, everybody. Let's move on. Let's check out a really interesting article. By all the ways, chat. Video coming out later today, which goes over the Q&A that Alex Perez dropped yesterday. Probably have a video coming out tomorrow about this one here, but we will briefly go over this. So I love these Q&As from Alex Perez. He will drop some info, but then, like, what I think is really cool is, like, taking the info that Alex Perez drops and combining it with all of the context of what else people are saying and kind of, like, painting you a good picture. So I think the video today is going to pop off. I think you guys are going to love it, and I bet you'll love the video we do about it, this as well. But for now, let's kind of get a first reaction as to some of the stuff that, oh, what? This is the one from yesterday. What the hell? This is literally the one from yesterday. Who shared this? Somebody told me this is a brand new... It's not brand new. It came out yesterday. Oh my God. Oh my God. You had me so excited that he was going to do another one. Boo. Fucking boo. Kendall says with the 5-spot, appreciate you, brother, says, at the end of the day, we have to hold the L because cast and crew lost a friend. But it's now up to MCU to use the multiverse and give us T'Challa. Yeah, I think that's an appropriate way to say it. Like, look, I have a lot of empathy for those people. And, like, mostly I'm talking about Ryan Coogler, okay? I don't really have a ton of empathy for Nate Moore. and Kevin Feige himself, like, look, I have empathy for Kevin, but, like, Kevin's the man. He's doing his thing. I have the most empathy for Ryan Coogler because Coogler is the guy that's tasked with dealing with this in a writer-director perspective in a way that's like, look, in commercial art, you're always juggling. You're always like, you know, studio wants this, investors want this, you know, the audience in China might not like this. There's a lot of considerations when you're making mass appeal 4-quadrant commercial art. But on top of that, you're dealing with the loss of this incredibly iconic individual, an individual that really made a personal impact on you, a person that carried a burden in silence for years and ultimately lost an epic battle with a horrible disease. So I have a lot of empathy for Coogler himself. But empathy does not equal lack of criticism. We can be empathetic. We can understand where the mindset is. And then I can turn around and tell you, I can't even watch that movie again, bro. I can't even watch it again. Like, you know what I'm saying? So, like, you could do both. You can be respectful. You can have an understanding of what is going on. And then you can also just say straight facts. Like, I'm not watching that movie ever again. I would like to be able to watch the Black Panther movies without being constantly reminded of real world trauma. Like, that's where I'm at with it, right? So it's like, look, totally understand it. And again, it's not like the end of the world. But I really do think the right thing to do is to bring T'Challa back. You've heard all the arguments before. You wouldn't stop making Superman. T'Challa is Superman. You know what I'm saying? Corso says, a bit behind, but apathy is death. Lucasfilm. Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Javier says, what happened to Jessica? Is she all right? Is she okay? Yo, Jessica, are you all right? Are you okay? People real worried about you. People real worried about you. Jessica. Jessica. All right, well, what else are we going to do? Because I think that's all the news. Absolute Batman #2 dropped today. Oh, that's sick. I can't wait to see that. That'll be chill. Yeah, what else is going on? Is there anything else we should talk about today? Oh, my God. Star Wars article from Inverse. Oh, God. Comic stings! You screwed me up on the Alex Perez thing. All right, what should we read this article? What is this article adding to the conversation? You know, I feel like we've already said our piece. Didn't we say our piece? I'm sorry, I failed you. It's all right, man. You just probably weren't in the stream yesterday. You didn't realize that people shared it yesterday. I wouldn't call it brand new when it came out a day ago, but all right. Read a few more issues of Avengers? No, we'll wait and do that on its own stream. We'll do that on its own stream. Interesting. You picked up your copy? Oh, that's sick. Will the TVA be in Fantastic Four? I'm not sure. I actually don't think so. Okay, I'll check out the article. Man, I don't even like reading about Star Wars, though. I'm going to briefly look over this. Nah, man, I'm not reading this. Sorry. Nope. Not doing it. I'm good. I'm good. Like, we're past the Star Wars portion of today's stream. I'm feeling good. So I don't want to read any more of that. I don't want to read any more of that shit. I don't want to read any more of that shit. Part-timer? I streamed for 5 hours yesterday. I got a video in the tank. I recorded, did a flow edit this morning. Come on. Rossi, thank you for gifting a membership over on Twitch. What if season 2 stream tonight? Oh man. All right, let's talk about that. Let's talk about this. So, tonight at 7:30, we will be doing a town hall. Okay? So I want to hear feedback from you guys. Not all of you, okay? Some of you don't. No. If you're a member, we're going to have a members only stream tonight at 7:30. I would love to hear some feedback from you guys about the changes, what we can improve, what do you guys want to do next year? And we were thinking about also watching the end of What If Season 2. Okay? And then I saw something on Twitter that made me think maybe we don't. So, like, I don't know, bro. Like, do we really have to watch the end of this? I mean, I guess it's not that bad. That is so stupid, bro. Peggy Carter has all the Infinity Gems on her massive boobs. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. This wasn't even the worst part. Oh, God. Oh, God. Yeah, you want to talk about Phase 4 mentality? I mean, you're looking at it right here, bro. Like, this is Phase 4 mentality. So, yeah. Yeah. We need to watch it. Well, maybe we'll watch it tonight. We could put it up to a poll or something. So we'll be there at 7:30 tonight. I want to talk about, do the town hall with you guys, see how you guys are feeling about things, changes, etc. And then we'll put it up to a vote. Maybe we can watch this. The only problem, too, is, like, we can't watch it on YouTube. So then we'd have to, like, switch to Twitch or switch to Discord to watch it together. All I want you to see is the World Forge concept. Yeah, and I think I need to see that. So, man, I'd have to check, like, what episodes I even watched. Let me see if I can pull that up. Can I see which episodes I even watched? Let me see here. Disney Plus. I stopped in episode 4. I stopped a third of the way into episode 4. No, wait. It says episode 5. Maybe we stopped in episode 5. Yeah, I think it was the Captain Carter versus the Hydra Stomper episode, and I was just over it. I was just like, man, this is dumb as shit. So then you've got Corey, Hela, Scarlet Witch. I mean, look, I like the female Marvel characters, but like this, I really feel like this was a time when Marvel was like, what if we did like 90% strong female characters, like 90% of them? And I was a little fatigued of it, you know? So like, it doesn't get me super hyped to be like, Corey, Hela, Scarlet Witch, and then a finale. Like, do you see what I'm saying here? Not that hyped. Not that excited. Anyway. Question, has anybody reached out to you for sponsorship for your streams? Yeah, like every goddamn day. What if you just knock out like 5 to 10 books in different videos? No. I want it to be dedicated. Yeah. LOL. Yeah, not toxic at all. I've tried many ways to express this without being toxic. I remember I made a video that was literally titled "The MCU Needs to Man Up." People got so mad at me. But then the Marvels happened, and then Kevin was like, oh shit, Josh was right. So now we're pivoting. You know, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. And also, too, like, that's another reason why I like Denzel coming into Black Panther 3. It was a little bit too much of a girl's trip in the second one. I need some testosterone in there, dude. I need some testosterone in there. And Denzel is like a man's man kind of an actor. He's that guy. So I'm excited. I'm excited about that. All right, chat. Well, we're just over 2 hours here. And I think given the 5 hours yesterday, I think we'll call it here. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate the love, the support. I thought you guys had some really good questions today, comments, a lot of good stuff happening in the chat. So I appreciate that as always. Make sure you check out. Oh yeah, that's actually a good call. So tomorrow, we will be live at probably around 1 p.m. It'll either be noon or 1 p.m. And there's an investor call in the morning for Disney. So we will see what it is announced. We'll see what they talk about. You know, there were some rumors that, like, you know, even Kevin or Kathleen Kennedy would be on the call. I don't know if I believe that. A Spider-Man Noir casting? I mean, all right. That's cool, I guess. Yeah, I don't know what they'll talk about. We'll see. We shall see. But if some stuff comes out, we're definitely going to talk about it on stream tomorrow. So that should be pretty chill. All right, everybody. Henny Babu Productions says, what's the Discord link? The one on the profile doesn't work. Also, night me, bruh. Henny Babu Productions, you are a Nerd Venger now. Welcome to the Nerd Vengers. Discord link? Yeah, let me get you one. Hang on. Hang on now. Where are we at, Discord? Hang on now. I'll get you set up here. Hang on now. Hey, also, did anything happen with that whole UAP thing? Did they say anything? Anything announced over there? Boom. Josh is best at reading chat. #1 chat reader. Oh, thanks, man. Andreas, you are a Nerd Venger, and you have been for years. Appreciate you, brother. Night, everybody. Everybody, you are Nerd Vengers. Read the comics in that voice. I don't want to. All right, everybody. Another happy landing. I thought it was a good show. A lot of good info, a lot of good insight. I mean, I don't like to brag, but the best takes on the internet, basically, shit was fire. I appreciate you. Thank you for being here. As I always